I don't know who this is supposed to be for, and I really didn't want to post this because I really don't like talking about my situation and what I've gone through because people have their negative commentary. But for the last 3 days, I've been just watching videos, and they all kind of confirm the same thing, that we all go through painful things in life. We all go through situations in life, and our story of our survival and the things that we've gone through is supposed to help somebody else. Even if we don't want everybody else to know, it's supposed to help other people get through things they don't think that they can get through. So maybe I'm supposed to tell somebody this because there's someone that I don't know needs to hear my story. But when I was 25 years old, I was living in Pensacola, Florida, and I had a stressful job as a mortgage processor. And the company that I was working for, they were giving us over 100 loans to have to process, and there would be ambulances, sometimes 5, 6 a day, picking people up in my department because it was stressing everybody out so badly, and just the overload of work that this company would give us was way too much for anybody to handle, and everybody had health issues. Well, I ended up getting sick at between the ages of 24 and 25. I ended up having heart palpitations at my desk while I was processing mortgages, and I didn't understand what was going on. So I had walked across the street to the medical clinic that this company had on site, and they took my blood, and they told me that they thought that I had what's called Graves' disease. And what it is it's an overactive thyroid. It's like these antibodies that are attacking your thyroid. And you can look up what Graves' disease is. But it causes heart palpitations. You can be overheated. It affects your eyes. It affects your eating. It affects a lot of things. And anyway, when I was about 24, 25 years old, I got diagnosed with Graves' disease. And at that time, I was so stressed out, and I was on antidepressants, I was on Xanax, I was on propranolol, which is a heart medication to stop heart palpitations, and some older people take that kind of medication. And I don't. And then I was also on medication to stop my thyroid from overworking, and I would constantly have to get my blood checked. They would constantly have to adjust my medicine, the amount that I would take, the times a day. It was just a nightmare, and I felt just exhausted and drained, constantly having these heart palpitations, constantly having my anxiety out the roof, being stressed out with this job, having these unbearable terms pressed on me with this job that I had. And then I had went from being 130 pounds to 200 pounds because of just wanting to stress eat all the time, and then also my thyroid making me hungry all the time. I ended up being overweight. I ended up on all this medication, and this is a 25-year-old with this illness. And it got to the point where I couldn't take the stress anymore, and I had been looking for another job, and for whatever reason during that period of time I just couldn't find another job. Nothing was coming up that would pay enough for me to change jobs, and so I had to go on medical leave. And so I went on medical leave, and I finally got relief from the job, but then I was dealing with my health issues with this Graves' disease, and dealing with my anxiety and just my nerves just being overworked, and all the stress that I had from the job that I'd had, people just screaming and yelling and calling me every day, wanting to cuss and scream about their loans because it wasn't getting processed in time. And the reason for that is I had over 100 people that they pushed on me and gave me to deal with. And after having supervisors telling me I wasn't doing enough, customers complaining and cussing, I just couldn't deal with it anymore, so I ended up going on medical leave. And I had to take that period of time, and I had to rest, and I had to just take time and sleep. I had to recover from all that stress that I had. And at the time, I would say probably within maybe 5-6 months of that period of time where I started to take leave, my family and I left our home. My parents and I left our home in Florida because they sold their home and they were going to move to a different state where they were going to have a different property that they were going to buy, or they were going to do something. At the time, we didn't know exactly what we were going to do, if it was going to be an older house or if we were going to build or whatever. So we ended up leaving at the end of 2019, our home in Florida, and we traveled to Tennessee. And we didn't know where we were going to go. We didn't have a plan of exactly what we were going to do. There wasn't a home waiting for us there. So we ended up staying in an Airbnb, and we looked for months and months and months and months for homes, for properties, for land, and just nothing seemed to be right. Prices were getting ridiculous around that time. It was at the end of 2019 when we moved, but then in 2020, that's when COVID hit. And so we ended up moving to Tennessee, not knowing at that time when we first moved there that COVID was going to hit. And then as we were looking for property for maybe 3, 4, 5 months, I don't remember, because it's been so much has happened since then, that's when COVID hit. So we were staying in this Airbnb, and we knew we couldn't stay there forever, and we couldn't find a property that was reasonable enough where it was already built and we could fix some things. Things were just too high for old homes needing so much work and so much money having to be put into it, that we decided, instead of us rushing and buying a place that wasn't right, that was not going to put us in a better financial situation, we were going to make the sacrifice and we were going to buy an RV. We were going to buy a 2-bedroom RV, and we were going to live in it, and we were going to live in a park somewhere until we could figure out the correct property to buy that would still allow us to be in a good financial place, but would be a good option for us, instead of doing like all these other people where they rushed and they bought places that were 2 and 3 and 400,000 over the asking price. We didn't want to do that because we had moved from Florida to Tennessee, so that way we could find something for my parents that would be close enough for them to pay for, where they wouldn't be working until they were 90 years old, and not do like everybody else and just buy these ridiculously priced places and be in a worse off financial situation than where we came from. So we ended up buying an RV, and we parked it in Tennessee, and then we finally came upon a piece of land, and it was in a good location. It looked like it would work for us, and it was in the right price range, and my parents decided that they were going to build on this property, and they closed on that property and they purchased it. And at the time that this property was presented to them, they were told that it was unrestricted. They were told that they could have a business and a home. They were told that there were 2 road frontages. And because at the time that my parents bought this property, my mom was not doing well. She was sick with a lot of things, and I didn't have the ability to go to the property at the time that they were purchasing it and oversee everything. And later on, we ended up finding out that there was absolutely no road frontage, that there was actually restrictions, building restrictions, that they didn't disclose properly, and the property was totally misrepresented. On top of that, when we went to the real estate agent, we went to the title company, and we went to an attorney to show that they didn't do their due diligence, because even in the title search and the outline of the property, it showed where the property began, but it didn't show the total enclosure that would give the correct analysis of where the road frontage should have been. And what had happened is that the previous owners had resurveyed this piece of land, and it ended up being to where it did not give the buyer any road frontage. So we were landlocked. So then we tried to pursue legality in regards to this, and it just so happened that the real estate agent, the title company, and the lawyer were all best friends, apparently, and they did not take any responsibility for the misrepresentation. They didn't take any responsibility for their lack of due diligence to get a survey done when it was requested that we asked them to do a survey twice. They didn't do it, and I had to deal with myself being sick, my mom being sick, and us trying to purchase a property and not having adequate help, and trying to do everything on our own, and this company not doing the survey, the title company not doing a survey, and washing their hands of it and saying that it was our problem. We went back to the title company who actually insured it, and they said, we're not going to cover any cost to get road frontage, because though you're landlocked, you can still get access. You would just have to pay for it. So this title company wouldn't take any responsibility to pay for any road frontage that my parents would have to purchase, when they should have had the road frontage that was presented to them by this real estate agent. So then we had to go to a neighbor, and my parents had to buy a small piece of their land, a small portion of it, just so we could put a driveway in and be able to access our property. So they did that out of extra expense that they weren't expecting to have to put out, that they were trying to put towards doing a septic, building a house, and other things. And this title company took zero responsibility. The real estate agent took zero responsibility. Everybody washed their hands of this situation. And so we had to take a loss. So here we are in an RV. We find out this brutal information about being landlocked, and then these people taking zero responsibility for their actions, and then making money off of my parents and just washing their hands of the whole situation. And then having to go take extra money that they really didn't expect to have to spend, nor did they have, to buy road frontage, to just buy one fraction of what they should have had. So then, after they bought the road frontage, that's when they started to clear trees, get their septic installed, and do all of these things. But not only that, in between this happening, before we could actually get started with the tree clearing, I had to go back to work because I couldn't continue to be out of work and on leave. So at the end of 2020, I took a position with another mortgage company, but I had nowhere to be able to operate out of. So I ended up spending extra money per month to rent an office in this local town that I was in to be able to have internet access and then work out of that office to do my job. So here we are in an RV. I'm renting this office with an extra expense that I wasn't expecting to have to do. And they're starting to clear the trees, get the septic done. All the things that they had to go through to get their trees cleared, to get the septic installed, to get their foundation of their house built, to each step of this house build process was a nightmare. The people that would come to do the jobs some of them were reliable, but some of them were not. It was an extremely hard process. People were not graceful to us. People were not compassionate to us. People were not understanding. People were not kind. They were not warm. They were not welcoming. So we ended up living in an RV park while we were building this house. And in this RV park, as we were in the process of building this house, which took a total of 3 full years, which I'll tell you what happened at that point, but in the process of this house getting built, we were living at a nearby RV park, and this RV park owner did not want to fix anything. They had a septic that was bad. They didn't want to fix it, and we just so happened to be hooked up to an area where they were having backup issues that were not the cause of us, and these people harassed us. They wanted to blame us because of our RV being connected to this septic tank that pretty much everybody was connected to. They harassed us and said it was our fault, and wanted to blame their issue and their lack of responsibility of maintaining their RV park on us and giving us a hard time when here we are in an RV trying to build this property, trying to make progress, trying to do what we can, and then we have these hateful people who we never paid late, we never did anything to, we were never rude to, blaming us and harassing us because they had to spend money to pump their septic and do other things that really was their own fault because they were lazy. They didn't want to take responsibility for the maintenance that needed to be done. They just wanted to hoard money for people coming in there, and they didn't want to take any responsibility to fix anything. So one day I get a call from my mother, and we have to leave, and I have nowhere for us to go. We couldn't stay at the RV park because these people just kept harassing us, kept being their demonic self, and I couldn't deal with it anymore. So I had to figure out a way to get us to a temporary place until we could finish at least getting the septic installed and the water installed so it would be livable for us to hook our RV up while we were building this house. So luckily, someone that I was renting the office from knew someone, and we went to stay in this private place that no one else knew of for about the same price monthly. And we stayed there, and those people, they were nice. They didn't bother us. They let us stay there for however many months we stayed there. I want to say it was like 2 or 3 before we got our septic done. And so, by the grace of God, we were able to get away from those people at that RV park that were being hateful and harassing and nasty. And we went to a temporary place nearby that just so happened to be the same price monthly we were paying, and they were peaceful people. They didn't bother us. They weren't rude. We didn't have any issues. And then finally, 2-3 months later, we were able to get onto our property and hook up to the water and hook up to the septic and hook up to everything. So then we didn't have to worry about staying somewhere and having to be up under someone's thumb. But then we had to go through 3 winters, 3 horrible winters in this RV. So I had a small room with a mattress on the floor, and that was my room. And I lived in that room for 3 years. And I had to rent an office to work out of for 3 years. And we had to go get propane every time you turned around. We had to fix something on this RV, and it was 3 times more than what it would cost you on a house, and having to wrangle around with people who were unreliable and rip-off artists to fix things. And it was just me and my mom most of the time having to deal with this by ourselves. And we went through 3 years of 3 bad winters. We went through 3 years of not knowing if this house would ever get done. We went through 3 years of torment. It was like torment. And we had a little box that we lived in. It felt like a tiny box that we lived in for 3 years. And sometimes we would cry ourselves to sleep. Sometimes we didn't know if we were going to make it. Sometimes we wondered if this was the end. Sometimes we wondered, is God there? And at the beginning of 2023, as of sometime in February, we finally got this house finished, and we've got a certificate of occupancy and completion. And I never thought I'd see that day where that house was finished. And during this period that this house was built, I was working at a job that was 2 hours away from my home because mortgage was not doing well. So I had gotten laid off in 2022 of April due to the mortgage company that I was working for not doing well, and they were being sued. So I ended up having to find a different job that was local, and the job that I accepted was 2 hours away, and the agreement was to work 2 days from there. Well, not even 2 days, but 1 day from this 2-hour location of this company I was working for, and then 4 days working from the office that I was working in. I had worked for these people for about 8 months, so I had gotten hired in May, and I worked with them from May all the way to end of January. And then they notified me of them changing the agreement to work from home 1 day a week to now having to be there 4 days a week, because they drew up some kind of story that I needed to be retrained, that I did not understand the position, that, I'm somehow incompetent, and so I needed to retrain at this job, which would require me to go there 4 days a week. And what the issue was is that I didn't want to be a part of their negative commentary. I didn't want to be involved in gossip. I didn't want to be around these people, because I had figured out who these people were. They were very insecure. Of course, they were all female. I don't know why that seems to be the case in the issues, but they were female. And they knew that I didn't want to be around them. And because they felt threatened by me and rejected by me, and me wanting to do the job on my own and be independent, they thought that they would punish me by making me go there 4 days a week, which was 2 hours away from my home. So that's 2 hours there, 2 hours back. And so for about a month, I had to do this. I had to go back and forth to this job that I hated because of them. And they would make sure to micromanage me. They would make sure to make me miserable. They would make sure that I hated every moment I had to be there. And then finally, in February, after applying for job after job after job of almost a month and a half of looking for another job, I found a local job, and I immediately left that company and got away from that situation. So here we are. We've gone through 3 years of this nightmare home build, of being lied to, of this property, of me and my health issues. And I forgot, in regards to my health issues, to back it up before I tell you more. At the very point that we decided to buy this RV in the beginning, I actually decided to go to an endocrinologist and have my thyroid destroyed. And that was, I want to say I was about 26, 27 years old at the time. I want to say that's how old I was. And they destroyed my thyroid with radioactive iodine because I had been on all this medication, these antidepressants, the propranolol, the Xanax, etc., for years. For almost over 5 years, I had been on all that medication, and I got tired of hurting. My bones were hurting. They had diagnosed me with osteopenia, and I felt like I was just withering away. And I was overweight at that point, so I just decided to destroy my thyroid, and it was during the pandemic. And my mom was afraid for me to go and have it removed because she didn't know if I would be more prone to get the coronavirus, but it ended up being that I wasn't. So I ended up taking radioactive iodine. They destroyed my thyroid, and I didn't know how I was going to feel after that. I didn't know if I would be the same. I didn't know if this was going to make it worse, because once you do that, you have to be on a pill for the rest of your life for a hormone replacement, a thyroid hormone replacement. You have to be on it for the rest of your life. So I ended up destroying my thyroid, and then a month later, I didn't have all this pain in my body. I didn't feel like my bones were hurting all the time. I didn't have to take medication for heart palpitations. And I was able to get off of Xanax. I was able to get off of antidepressants. I was able to get off of heart medication. And I was able to feel normal again. And during that period, I dieted. I worked out. I decided to stop eating the unhealthy things that I had been prone to eating during my thyroid disease that had made me not only gain weight, but made me feel bad about myself. And I ended up eating better and eating healthier and taking care of myself. And I went from 200 pounds to 125 pounds is what I am about now. So just in my health alone, I've been through all that. So to go back to the story of this job, they harassed me. I prayed to God and I said, I've got to get out of this situation. I've already been through 3 years of torment. I've already dealt with so much. And these women knew exactly what I was going through. They knew my living situation. They knew that I couldn't handle mentally and emotionally having to drive 2 hours to a job and 2 hours back that did not require you to be physically there because it was an online job. They just did it out of meanness because that's what people do. And so I finally got a position locally that I was offered. And even though I had to take a pay cut, I've been at this job for 6 months. And even though it's not the amount of money that I used to make, even though it's not the top paying job, at least people are not nasty. I get along with everybody. I'm not harassed. I'm not threatened. I'm not hated. for trying to be a decent person, trying to be a peaceable person. And most people don't know that I'm a Christian. And a lot of people want to persecute you when you are a Christian. They want to express hate to you for no particular reason at all. But I ended up finding a job where I don't have to deal with that. I don't have to deal with discrimination. I don't have to deal with being harassed. I don't have to deal with the amount of stress that I've dealt with in past positions. It was a job that I needed. So I'm at the point where I'm at this position, at this current job, and right now I work 2 jobs, but I'm not stressed out. I'm not harassed. I'm not in some horrible situation where I'm being tormented every day. And life's not perfect at this point, but the whole moral of the story, it's not to get pity. It's not that I need anyone's sympathy. The point of me telling this story is to tell everything that I've been through, and I'm doing okay. I live with my parents, and I'm trying to pay off things so that I can have a better life for myself. And my parents have a paid-for home, and what I didn't say is that they had to pay for this house build as they went. They didn't have a way of financing this house, which is why it took them 3 years. They had to pay as they went. So they saved their money and they paid for jobs to be done to build this house, and it took them 3 full years to get this house paid for. It's not a perfect house, but it's a brand new house. It's 850 square foot. It's on land that they don't owe much on, and they're in a better financial situation than most people. They have a paid-for house, and I don't have to go and spend $1,900, $1,500 for rent like most people. So what I'm trying to get at is that I had to spend 3 years of a tiny room with a mattress on the floor, and I had to do life harder than some people, and I was just about homeless. But 3 years later, I live in a house, and I don't have to drain my bank account to pay some house bill. I don't have to drain my bank account just to live like most people do. So even though I've been through all the health issues I've had to go through and all the things that I've had to overcome within the last 4 years, I'm in a better place. And a lot of people, they give up because their dreams don't come true. They've been through horrible things. And these people on Instagram want to post about this wonderful life that they have. You don't know if these people actually live this life. You don't know that what they're posting about is what they actually have. They're lying to people, saying that you're not important if you don't have $1 million. You're not important if you don't look like this. You're not important if you don't have 1 million Instagram followers. You're not important if this, that, and so. And so everybody wants to disregard people who don't have money, disregard people who don't look like a Tyra Banks model, disregard people who don't have this lavish lifestyle, and treat people as if they don't matter, when there's lots of people out there going through so many things that you could learn from. They've been from hell and back, and they could tell you their story and you wouldn't believe it. I don't tell people my story because a lot of people, they either want to compare what you've gone through to somebody else and say it wasn't as bad, or they want to try to give you some kind of discouragement based off of what you've gone through, like they did Job in the Bible. And another thing is that I wouldn't have been able to get through what I've gone through had it not been that there is a God, because there's no way I would have made it through the winters. There's no way I would have made it mentally and emotionally. There's no way I would have made it physically if it wasn't for a God that exists, because if it wasn't for a God that exists, I'd be dead. I'd be dead somewhere. with all that I've had to endure, with all that I've had to go through, with all that my family has had to go through, we'd be dead if there wasn't a God. My health issues could have killed me, but it didn't. My situation in life could have killed me, but it didn't. And my example is that I didn't say things about these people that did us wrong in order to get sympathy. I'm saying this because when you're going through a hard time, most people are uncompassionate. They're not kind, they're not caring, they're not understanding, they're not sentimental. They are hypocritical, they are mean, they are hateful, they are judgmental, and they will find ways to make things worse for you when you're already going through hell. So I'm telling my story in order to reach somebody, to let them know that even though people have put you down, they have judged you, they have rejected you, they have tried to kill your dream, they have tried to tell you what you're not, they have tried to get you to believe that you're not worth what you are just because either you don't have money, you are not in a good physical position, whatever your circumstance is, people have made it even worse for you than the situation that you're going through, and they have spiritually beat you to the point where you want to give up. But because there is a God, you shouldn't give up. If it wasn't for a God, I wouldn't be here today. And people were not supportive, they were not compassionate, they were not kind, they were not helpful, they were mean, they were judgmental, and they made things worse for me rather than better. So just because people are being mean, people are being judgmental, people are being hateful, does not mean that you're not going to have a future, that your dreams are not going to come true, that you won't get through the things in life that you're going through. If I can get through all that I've been through and still have a hope for my dreams to come true, there's hope for you no matter how bad of a situation that you're going through. My situation seemed to last for 4 years, and I'm still in ways recovering emotionally and spiritually from the things that I've had to go through. But life has been better. I have a home that I can live in now. I have a job with people that are reasonable and I can get along with. And even though I'm not everywhere I'd like to be, I'm not where I want to be exactly in my life, doesn't mean I'm not going to get there. It's just been hard and it's been long, but I'm not giving up on my dreams. And I tell my story to encourage someone else that if I can get through my health issues, if I can get through being homeless, if I can get through people being hateful and nasty and mean and trying to thwart me and reject me and judge me and do everything they can to set me back, and I'm still moving forward and things are still gonna work out for my good. Things can still work out for your good regardless of the situation you're in. And don't worry about people, what they say about you, how they look at you, how they judge you, how they make remarks about you, how they try to make things harder for you. They don't matter. Their words don't matter. Their opinions don't matter. They don't matter because they don't know what you've gone through. And if they had to walk a day in your shoes, they wouldn't last. They wouldn't last in your shoes. The things that you've had to go through, other people wouldn't have survived what you've survived. And if you've come this far, to go as far as you can go, you need to keep going, and eventually things will be better. Keep working and things will get better, and you will have a better result, even if it's not today. If it's tomorrow, if it's next year, keep moving forward no matter what people do, no matter what people say, no matter how they look at you, no matter what they do. Keep moving forward and know that there is a God and that He has a future for you. And even if it's not in your timing, even if it's not in the exact vision that you had, it is better than what you had for yourself. It is a better vision than what you had originally for yourself. It's better. Just tell yourself when you are down that God has a future for you and there is a hope, and that it is not the end. It is not the end of your life. And to keep going, and that eventually, one day, you will see that you have reached your dreams. You have reached your future. You have reached your hope. You have to look to a God who is unconditionally loving, who is gracious, who is kind, who is loving, who is understanding, who is not judgmental, and who does not expect perfection from you, and He does not look on the outside. He does not care what money you have. He does not care what you look like. He does not care what you own. He cares what you have in your heart. And if you are a kind, compassionate, loving person, you will have a hope for a future. Regardless of what other people make you feel like, you have a hope, and you will tell yourself that every day until you believe it. If I can get through everything that I've been through and still believe that my dreams are going to come true, though they haven't yet, I'm still in a better place, and I still know that I wouldn't be here today in this better place had it not been for a God who got me through things that I was not capable of getting through by myself. And I've had to be by myself and get through things by myself, but there was a God who helped me, even when there wasn't a human being that helped me. And even if you don't have a human being that helps you, there is a God that will help you. And you will tell yourself that every single day. You need to know that there is a hope, that there is a future. It's just like this manifestation that they talk about. It's not that it's the law of attraction. It's that God tells you to speak His word, to believe His word, and to meditate in His word. And when you do what He says and you speak His words and you change your belief system, that's when the manifestation on the outside will change. When you change who you are on the inside, it changes what goes on the outside. And you have to meditate in that every single day, and you'll see a change in your life. And it doesn't matter what stage of life you're in. I'm not exactly where I want to be. My every dream didn't come true. But it's not that it won't. It's just not where I'm at right now. But I'm in a much better place than I was 4 years ago, with all that I've had to go through. And I didn't lose my mind. I didn't die. I'm still here. And I had to be strong in order to be strong for other people who needed to hear my story. And again, I don't like people to know my situation because they have their negative commentary and they don't understand, because they don't walk your road. They haven't walked your path and dealt with what you've dealt with and dealt with the things that you've dealt with. But you have to know that there is a hope, there is a future, and you have to silence everybody out of your head and quit following all these people who show a perfect plastic life, that they're just as miserable and empty, and they don't have your answers, and they're not a God. They're just fake. They're giving you fake happiness. They're saying if you obtain all this money and status, etc., that you will have what I have. It's a lie. They're empty. They don't have their purpose. They don't know what their purpose in life is. They're just craving something to fill them up, and they're empty. So you have to look to a God to fill you up. You have to look to a God who can give you what you need, because Instagram is not going to give it to you. A new car is not going to give it to you. Money is not going to give it to you. And even people won't give it to you because they're selfish. They can be narcissistic. They can be mean. They can be vile. So you can't even look to a human being. You have to look to a divine being to be everything that you need, and you will see when you work at this every day that you will be filled and you won't feel empty like everybody else. And your situation will get better, and that you need to know that it's not the end for you, that you've got a hope that it will get better. And though people have done you dirty and wrong, it's not up to you to get even, and that they won't get away with what they do forever. But it's not up to you to get even. It's not up to you to make it even. You just need to work on you, so that way you can walk in favor with God, so that He can make changes in your life to make it better, while they're still empty, they're still lacking, they're just a vile person that you don't need to be associated with nor worry about. So worry about yourself. Stop following these people lying to you, telling you that there's some perfect life out there. Nobody has a perfect life, whether they have money or not. Nobody is happy all the time. Nobody has the answers. They're just a human being. They're lying to people about their lifestyle, and people are ashamed for people to know their truth. People are ashamed to tell people what they're going through. Don't be ashamed because somebody else, they're going to be a better person from your story. They're going to be able to get through what they're getting through with your story. They're going to be able to push through what they're enduring with your story. So don't be ashamed of what you're going through, and tell somebody else your story about how you got through what you got through to help somebody else. And don't worry about everybody else who wants to give negative commentary, because they know not what you've had to walk through. So let them be a hypocrite. Let them be hateful. Let them be whatever they want to be, and stop worrying about what other people think of you, because it's not what they think of you that matters. It's what God thinks of you. And He's not like them. He does not judge on the outside. He does not care what you own. He cares about who you are on the inside. And a lot of people are not great on the inside. They may look pretty on the outside, but they're rotten. They're decayed on the inside, and there's nothing good about them. And they can show and project a perfect exterior, but if the interior is no good, they are no good. Stop worshiping those kinds of people, because they don't have your answer, and they will make you feel bad about yourself when you shouldn't feel at all bad about yourself. You're a stronger person for what you have to go through. You're a wiser person, and you're a more loving person. People that go through horrible things are more kind and caring and compassionate than people that know nothing about that. So when you are going through something, ask people their story. Tell people your story. They need to know, so that it can help them grow through what they need to get through. It can help somebody not end their life because they think that it's the end. And I've been there mentally and emotionally. You have to stop caring what other people think, and quit living life in the fear of what other people think and what they're going to do, because they don't care about anyone but themselves, those kinds of people. So I hope this helps somebody else of my story. And again, it's not about pitying me. It's not about sympathy, because I don't care anything about that. I don't need that from anybody. It's to help somebody who's going to give up. And I hope that hearing my story will help them not give up.